Hello and welcome to the Jewish Curiosity Podcast, where we ask questions and take journeys. We've been taking a journey for a while now to try and explore the question, what am I doing here? What is our purpose in this world? And in this episode, we reach our conclusion of that journey, at least for now, and we're going to talk about the spiritual significance of doing good for others. I hope you enjoy. Not many people survive a jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, but Kevin Hines did. And when he's interviewed about it, he says a shocking thing. He says that if even one person had asked him, "Are you okay?" he wouldn't have jumped. One person, one question. Think how many lives could be saved if we just looked out for each other that little bit more. For the past few weeks, we've been exploring a big question. What am I doing here? What is our purpose in this world? And we've looked at a few different answers along the way. And by the way, they can all be true. One idea is tikkun ha'olam, changing the world, using our spiritual abilities to make the world better through our everyday actions. Another is devekut, building a relationship with God, not just serving Him or doing what He says, but actually connecting to Him, trying to get closer and closer every day. And then there's tikkun hamidot, changing ourselves. God created us imperfect, with flawed character traits, and He calls upon us to perfect ourselves, to become better people. But there is one more idea that we need to discuss. The son of the great Nefesh Hachaim wrote that their father always used to tell them the following: man was not created for himself, but rather to benefit others as much as he possibly can. According to this, the purpose of life is to do good for others. You see, God created the world to share His goodness. He is the ultimate good, and He wanted to give that good to something outside Himself. So He created us to be the recipients of that goodness. Now, let's think about that. Well, the other purposes we've discussed are kind of working within the system, improving the world that we live in, improving ourselves. Doing good for others goes beyond the system. That is, every person is a world. And when we help someone else, we are emulating God. We're sharing our goodness with a world outside ourselves. So what does that look like in practice? Of course, there are going to be many different forms. There are deep, intense relationships, being a mentor, a friend, a parent, a partner. You can do an unbelievable amount of good in these dynamics, from helping someone through a tough time, to encouraging them, to building them up as a person, to helping them be more than they ever believed they could be. But there are also simpler, more practical forms. Giving a helping hand to someone you barely know, offering a simple smile and a kind word to a complete stranger. And as we learned from Kevin Hines, you never know how far a kind word can go. There is one caveat though. When we're doing good for others, we have to remember that people are people. I'll illustrate that with a story. When Rav Hutner was very ill, some of his students came to him. They came to visit him, and feeling pleased, they thanked him for the opportunity to fulfill the mitzvah of Bikur Cholim, of visiting the sick. Looking not so pleased, Rav Hutner replied to them, "Please don't treat me like your lulav." In other words, there are two ways to do kindness. One is to treat the other person as a prop, someone who helps you do a good deed. The other is to treat them as a human being, a person who deserves your time, your energy, your love. The difference between the two is that in the first approach, you're thinking about yourself. And in the second approach, you're genuinely thinking about the other person. And obviously, it's the second approach that we're meant to follow. So this is it. This is our exploration of our purpose in this world. Tikkun ha'olam, changing the world. Devekut, connecting to God. Tikkun hamidot, changing ourselves. And lahetiv lezulat, doing good for others. Life can be hard, and we can go through times where we feel lost and purposeless. But now, at least we have the tools to know that we do always have a purpose. And the best part is that these tools are always accessible. They don't cost money, they don't require a fancy job, high intelligence, perfect relationships. They just require you to be you. And with that, purpose is there for the taking for every single one of us.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Jewish Curiosity podcast. If you want to find out more or check out more episodes, you can go to www.jewishcuriosity.com, or you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Have an amazing day, and hope to see you next time.